first of all, thank you very much for taking the time to have this chat with me. So for people who just started, I'm going to quickly introduce myself. I'm Therese de Bruyne, and I'm curating a couple of workshops and webinars to inspire the creative industry to start learning new digital skills. And by doing research, I just wanted to record the research I did, because there's so much knowledge otherwise stuck in paperwork. And in one of my deep dives, I met you, Lucia. So maybe you should explain a little bit who you are and what you're doing.
So I'm Lucy Askew. I'm the Chief Executive for Creation Theatre Company. We're based in Oxfordshire in the UK. We are traditionally a theatre company that specialise in using unusual locations, site-specific, immersive, site-responsive, open-air productions, all sorts of things. So we've always been used to working with some quite, at times, challenging parameters. But we, at the start of 2020 and when coronavirus really started to hit, we very quickly and very rapidly started experimenting with what we could do online. Initially playing in Zoom, we did a production of The Tempest, and it has just completely gone crazy from there, and we've absolutely just fallen in love with all these incredible digital opportunities that we're finding.
Yes, yeah, I would call yourself a little bit pioneers in whatever new ways of experimenting with theater. But the first time I met you, you mentioned, well, how did you end up in theater? Because it's always nice to understand where you're coming from, and also you have a kind of different way of organizing things. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I originally, as a student, I studied theatre studies, so I am kind of from a background of being very interested in theatre in a sort of a fairly academic way. Actually, I did quite an academic course. I've never been a trained performer or director or anything like that. And then I actually, when I was a student, I did 2 weeks work experience at Creation Theatre.
Oh, funny, yeah.
So yeah, and you would think that was the end of the story, that I did work experience at Creation and now I'm the chief executive and that's it. It actually wasn't. I did 2 weeks work experience and actually at the end of it decided that I didn't think theatre was for me. It was a wonderful company and incredible shows, but I kind of felt that the way there was, it felt at that moment in time that there was quite a separation between the actors and the producing team and the marketing team in the office, and that it didn't kind of feel like it was a cohesive unit. It felt like there was a kind of real dislocation between the two sides there, and I felt I wanted something more collaborative and sort of working together. Yeah. So I went away and I had a sort of I call it a sensible job. I worked in education for 6 years.
Where collaboration is key, because that's how you inspire students.
Yeah, worked with children and had a sort of sensible job. And then it was when I had my first child that I, on a whim, applied to work at Creation Theatre again and thought, maybe I wrote it off too quickly. Perhaps theatre is for me after all. Perhaps I should go back to my roots. Perhaps I should do that. And maybe that will offer, this is the mad bit, maybe that will give me more work-life balance.
Well, luckily I didn't knew you back then, because I could have told you it's not the case, because I started after going to college very quickly as working in theatre as well, and I can imagine it's impossible. But you did have it. Did you because you spoke about the fact that it was quite divided and you wanted to make it into one team. Did you, when you go back, immediately you got a chance to do that, or did it take some time to get the whole team?
No, it took some time, because I started in a position at Creation as education manager. So I kind of, building on my education experience, founded our drama clubs, grew our education work, and really, that's what I started off doing, and is still very much at the heart, a really significant part of what we do. Yeah. And then it just went from there. So gradually over the years, I was able to sort of chip away at the organisational culture and really incorporate, I think I learned so much from my predecessors and how they did things, and there's a lot that they had right that we still build on, and that's put us in the position that we're in today. But we were able to kind of do some slightly more kind of radical approaches to how we work collaboratively and what we want the sort of vibe of the company to be.
Yeah. But the fact that how would you say that for people who don't know creation theater, that you are working differently, and I remember the involvement with your audience is quite an important thing, and how you approach stuff. For people who don't know you, how would that show?
Yeah, well, I think our first digital work, to us, it felt it was a co-production with a company called Big Telly, who are based in Northern Ireland, and we've worked with their director Zoe Seaton a lot. So our first production, The Tempest, I mean, I don't think we even talked about it. It just felt like a given that the audience were a part of that relationship and a part of that experience, and that we would acknowledge them in the experience, that our performers would feed off that experience, because that's what theatre is for us.
Yeah.
And then I think
Interactivity is an important part. Eh? It was before the COVID hit you already. The fact that you spoke about being part of that community in Oxford, I think that's,
Yes, yeah.
yeah,
So because we've been largely based in Oxford and only done a few shows outside of Oxford, we have traditionally a very uniquely geographical audience. We haven't toured, we haven't sought that kind of, we must spread the word and take our show all around the country. We've never gone to any festivals, we've always stayed. But what that means is we've built up a very kind of local, very loyal audience.
yeah,
So, it's very embedded in the work. It's very instinctive that if we come and see a show, we want to know who from our audience is coming to see it. We know a sizable portion of them by name. We know what their booking patterns are. We know what shows they liked, what shows they didn't like. So I think that means that it's for them. So when you start making the work, it's just implicit that you'll be able to see the audience and they'll be a part of the process.
You have them in mind, because
Yeah.
you are self-supportive, because that's an important thing to know, because then when COVID hits, it's not like you have a rescue line, or you can take on an approach where you have like a big drawer where you can ask for extra money and funding. No. So
we don't receive any core funding, so we get bits of state funding through different kind of schemes. We might apply for project funding for particular things, but we have no kind of core income other than ticket sales. So the graph, like I've been to like arts sort of seminars, things before, they showed like a pie chart of the typical breakdown in the UK of how people fund themselves, and it's normally like a third public funding, a third ticket sales, a third fundraising, and ours is about 80% ticket sales and education, and then maybe 10% funding, 10% fundraising. So we have quite a different business model to most of the organisations in the UK.
Which makes you more like a independent business owner who really needs to think about ticket sales all the time, because there was this trend when COVID hit of a lot of theaters and artists who were giving stuff away for free on the internet. You choose not to do that, because of course otherwise you wouldn't be able to survive, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. For us, there was never any question of creating shows and putting them out for free, because we just could never do that. We don't have the kind of ability to do that, but also because it just wouldn't make, there would be no legacy to it. The sustainability of taking that approach. We actually did have some actors who were under a contract for a live show at the start. We could have used them and made a show that was free, and we would have spent the same money on them, but we then would have had no route to survival beyond that. So we knew we really have to make digital work something people will pay for. That's really the only choice.
Yeah. So then suddenly COVID hits, and you're in because of obviously you have your responsibility for your team. How big was your team at moment in time?
There were 9 of us, 9 in our full-time team.
Yeah, 9 people and 9 families as well. It's not easy. So, but you have no time to cry.
I try not to add up how many children that involves too many times.
No, I guess because there's always a family and some drama behind the numbers. But I had the feeling you go into and I think a lot of people in the creative industry try to do that. Is you go into a kind of we need to do something mode, in order not to think too much and just have the feeling that you have things in your own hand. So you were in the middle of a production, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
just before the lockdown, so you had to shift gears. And how did the team react to that? Because how did the idea of doing it online pop up?
Well, rather extraordinarily, the production that we were in the middle of was a production of The Time Machine. That the script had been written in conjunction with the Wellcome Centre for Ethics and Humanities, and it was building on all the research that their team are looking at, and a sizable portion of that research was to do with pandemics and vaccinations. And so since October 2019, they had been saying to us, there will be a pandemic, a SARS-like pandemic. It will spread around the globe. Air travel will be the thing that accelerates its spread. The only country that will survive pretty much unscathed is New Zealand. And lots about vaccinations and the kind of ethical implications of vaccinations if people do it. So we were weirdly prepared for it. And I think actually our actors as well, our whole teams were sort of like, okay, right, here we go.
We were visionary. Here we go.
Yeah, we sort of knew this was going to happen. So I think we were, mentally in a place where we had been confronting these quite terrifying possibilities for a few months. I mean, not for very long, but enough that it kind of felt like, okay, we sort of know what we're doing, and we had this hotline to these sort of scientists and ethicists that we could go, what's going to happen next? So I think
That's amazing. Yeah,
that helped us adapt very, very quickly. We also had, because we had those performers under contract, we really quickly went, there's no question we're not paying them for the rest of their job. Like, the ethics of it, they're definitely being paid. We have to support them at the moment. And Big Telly were in a similar situation. They had a show that couldn't go ahead. They had I think they had like 3 days left with some performers.
Yeah, Big Telly, for the people who don't know it, they're an Irish company.
Yeah, they're based in Northern Ireland, kind of absolutely incredible, so he's a sort of visionary director and doing absolutely amazing work. But there was sort of fate brought it together that within our team who'd been doing The Time Machine and with their team that they'd been working with, we nearly had the entire cast that we'd done a production of The Tempest with the year before that Zoe had directed. So sort of as weirdly as luck would have it, we kind of had, a lot of our cast under contract who'd done this previous show. So then we got in touch with the other people who had and said, would you be up for just a couple of days playing and we'll pay you and see what we could do, and so we went kind of into Zoom rehearsals with them all for a couple of days, and at the end of it we went, we've got to keep doing this, we've got to keep pursuing this, we're going to put it on sale in 2 weeks' time, and we just went for it.
Yeah,
we put it on sale. We said it's £20 a ticket, and it sold out.